We let people get to us. We take the bait. We let people decide what the narrative is for our holiday season. Don't do that. Instead, this holiday season, have a plan of action. If you have a plan of action, you can decide everything. And you can feel at the end of the season like you gave yourself really a miraculous gift. And you will be able to see, in one holiday season, that's all it takes to see the impact that you have on your own life when you decide to take charge of it. So I'm going to give you some general tips. First of all, remember that when you decide, for example, that you're not going to be talking about something this holiday season, like let's say that you are having a holiday special extravaganza with the relatives, and you know that there are going to be people there that aren't frankly welcome at everybody else's holiday table, that are going to insist on talking about politics, because that's the number one issue that tends to be dividing us these days. What I recommend saying is this. When somebody brings up politics, and I hope that you do not, if you're with people that it would be divisive to bring that up with, I like to say something just like this. Uncle Marty, Uncle Sharon, whatever, Aunt Sharon, whatever it is, because I love you and I love everybody here so much, I have made the decision that this year I've decided to place a moratorium on all holiday discussions. I'm sure you'll understand. So the components of that, so that you can put it into your own words, are, I have made the decision. I have decided. I have not thought about it and kind of contemplated. I have made the decision. When you decide, you cut off all other possibilities. I have made the decision, and it wasn't difficult. And it was made, the other component is, because I love you and I love everybody else here, more than anything else, because I love myself and my sanity, to put a moratorium. I love using the word moratorium because, generally people who I wouldn't agree with politically don't even know what that word means, so it kind of scares them and they shut up. But a moratorium means there is no discussion. I have put a moratorium, it is in a box that is dead, on all political talk this holiday season. And then I ended it with, I'm sure you understand, because I'm just going to assume you do, because that's where this ends. And then don't forget the broken record. Many times we make our lives so much more difficult than it needs to be. When somebody pushes you, when somebody's not taking whatever it is that you're saying, and they're pushing you, they're trying to get you to cave, just remember the broken record. Plus, I like to use things like, well, that may be, but. And when you say that may be, but, and then you repeat yourself, you can stand your ground. And that will work in 99% of situations where somebody tries to get you to cave. If you're talking to a relative who says, well, but really, your ideas about blah, blah, blah are just ridiculous. Well, that may be, but I thought about it long and hard, and I've made the decision that this year I'm putting a moratorium on all political talk this holiday season. I'm sure you'll understand. Well, I don't understand. I think it's something we all need to talk about. Well, that may be, but I have decided that this holiday season I'm putting a moratorium on, and then you just keep saying it over and over and over again while you're sipping your eggnog, while you're having, you put your feet up in front of the holiday fire. You're fine. You're good. Don't let anybody else decide the narrative for you this holiday season. Okay. Hold on. I have a question, and I apologize. I have lost all of my glasses. How do I call out my supervisor during meetings when she's putting her hands on me during meetings as though she's telling a story, but it's passive aggressive and it's covertly trying to rattle me? She's putting her hands on you? Okay, here's how you call that out. You have a talk with your supervisor immediately after the next meeting. The next meeting that you have, immediately say, I'm going to stay just for one moment. I'm going to say that your supervisor's name is Mary, and you want to stop and talk to Mary afterwards. And if it's something that's difficult for you to say, maybe you're asking this because sometimes you tend to be too aggressive or sometimes you're too passive. If it's something that's difficult, you can begin it with, Mary, this is difficult for me to say because I enjoy our relationship as a not only boss employee, but a friendship. You can always say that to soften up the message that's going to come, and then make it all about you. When you touch me, well, it starts off with you because that is the behavior that you're addressing. When you touch me during meetings, I'm uncomfortable with, and you could actually, if this is the first time, let me back up. If this is the first time you've ever mentioned it to your supervisor, you can start off not even mentioning her, if it's a her, and simply leave it at, I've always enjoyed the relationship that we have. That said, I have to bring something to your attention. I'm uncomfortable with any type of physical touch in the workplace. And if you had an experience in the past, maybe you've thought of an experience, you can always say, and I hope you understand, maybe I'm more sensitive because of my experiences, but I had to let you know that because I don't think you were aware. And so I would soften the blow after you say it with something like, because I don't think you were aware. Maybe, and this is a big maybe, your supervisor might not be aware that they are touching you. And I say that because I've dealt with that before, where people are like, what, I don't touch you. Yeah, you do all the time. And it's really creepy. But I think that if you have to make the decision, and you can also soften the message by saying, I wanted to tell you that before it became a problem. Meaning it is not a problem right now. That is why I'm telling you that. And so those are the components that I would use. Number one, begin the message with something like, I had to talk with you about this because I've enjoyed our relationship up until this point. And you might not be aware is another component, but I'm uncomfortable with any physical touch in the workplace. And I wanted to make you aware of that before it became a problem. And then you can end it with something like, oh, what would I use as an ending phrase there? You have to plan out your lead-in line and your ending phrase. An ending phrase for something like that would be something like, something like this. That's not going to be a problem, is it? And then your boss knows, but I'm guessing that you probably have not brought this up before, if that's, am I correct? She tries to intimidate me by ganging up on me with another employee during the meetings. I reported it in an employee survey, which improved her over, I bet it did. She used to give me dirty looks and lies. Oh boy. I apologize for those of you who were waiting in the, I apologize for those of you who were waiting in the other live chat. I have no idea what I'm doing on live chat, and I hope you can forgive me for that, because I had everything so prepared to give everyone a lovely experience, and then I'm panicking at the end going, why am I not going live? I just don't know how to use technology, and I'm in desperate need of an assistant. So I hope that everybody found this okay, and I apologize for your, I know that that's really frustrating. But going back to this question, I am sorry that and I am sorry that you've had this experience at work, because it tends to be when we go to, and I'm glad you brought this up, you put it in a survey that this was bothering you and it only got worse. Just remember, for everybody here, HR is not your friend. People who claim to be, I'm here to improve the corporate culture. Anybody who is not your boss or supervisor, who's coming in asking about your relationship with other people at work, is not your friend. They are looking for people to fire. They are looking for problems and then how to dispose of those problems. And so if they have identified you as a problem, they will try to dispose of you. And I just wanted to make everybody aware of that. Beware of people asking you to fill out a survey at work. Beware of HR calling you. Beware of going into HR. So these are the types of problems that I know. Who is this? Leah. Leah, I know that you can handle this, because it's not, it should not be a big deal. It is your body. And so that is one thing that you need to get used to, if you have not gotten used to it yet, putting your foot down, making it very clear, setting that boundary. And then in the future, if you are touched during a meeting, that's when you absolutely should put your hand on their hand and say, I believe we discussed this, and give them that warning that, hey, we said this is not going to happen anymore. We agreed, and this is happening, before you make it a big deal in front of other people. Because you just don't want to make it a big deal, not for your boss, for you. I mean, if you can, HR is not your friend. That's right. That's a revelation, really. Okay, so I'm going to go through some of the comments. Gasp. Oh, wow, that's a revelation. HR is not HR is not your friend. Thank you very much, whoever said I'm doing a great job. I hope I am. Thank you very much. I left a message in there for them. Thank you very much, Nana Breeze. Oh my gosh, thank you for doing that. I didn't even think of that. I was panicking. I have to tell everybody, I panic when I do these types of things. I do not know how I look. I panic because I always want to really do a good job. And it always turns out that within a live thing like this, I should just give it up because it's an impossibility. But I have to tell you speaking of that, what I tend to do is, before, I was just giving this as a tip in my private group. If none of you have joined my private group, go to waitlist.danoconnor.communication.com and you can join it's free up until November 30th. Here's my biggest tip before you speak at an event like this or an event in public. I always say to whoever is my source at the time, the universe, God, Holy Spirit, whatever you pray to, please take the words out of my brain that I was going to say to these people and replace them with your words that they need to hear. Thank you. So 9 times out of 10 that works, but sometimes it does not. Normally it does. And today, here's exactly what I got. When I said, please replace my words that I've been meaning to say with your words. Thank you very much. I pressed print to print out the guide that I was using today. Printer just, so that's what I get. I'm hoping that any minute now I'll be given the words that I should use to replace them. Okay, so going back to, hello from Australia. Hello. Hey, YouTube. Oh, wait, I'm going the wrong way. Okay, there we go. Thank you. Don't panic, Dan. Thank you, Emily. Thank you for all your videos. You are welcome. This is a great prayer. Prayer. Oh, it's the best prayer. I'm telling you. I don't know what, these are Olga's glasses. I don't know what I'm doing, but it is a fantastic prayer because, I have to tell you, if you are prepared with what you are going to say, you can use that as a backup, but it's amazing the things that get it's amazing to me, the things that get placed in my brain when I'm talking, and all of a sudden I just feel this, you have to say this. This is what they need to hear. And so I'll be like, okay, and I'll go off script, and it tends to work out, I have to tell you. Okay, so thank you for your welcome. You're very welcome, my gosh. Okay. Hey, hi, Kat. Hi, Kat. And it usually works. That's right, Dr. Nowood. Okay, if anybody has a question, make sure to write it in the comments. I think I'm getting them. I'm not 100% sure. But I wanted to also talk about, because this was a big issue. I printed off the last the last of my notes, not the beginning of them. Okay, this is it. If you have something that I have learned recently that has worked really well when I'm dealing with narcissists, for example, who are they're trying to hook you in, and make you buy into their narrative. That's really the biggest thing that I think upsets us the most when we're dealing with. Now, by the way, a lot of times we call people narcissists who are not necessarily narcissists, but I'm talking about those clinical narcissists. We all know at least one, that they want you to buy into their narrative. And that's really what we don't want to do, because we just have to draw the line, and be like, hey, I have to have a foot in reality. The world is such a different place from how it used to be. I don't want to accept or say that I accept a narrative that is not true. So if somebody's trying to push one on you this holiday season and you're just not playing, you can say that. You can always say to people, I'm not playing this season. I'm just not playing tonight. But that's not the big deal. What has really worked, I have found, and other people have been finding, is when you want to disengage with somebody, because that's really the thing with a narcissist. You want to disengage with them. I mean, you're not going to change them. I'm not going to convince them to live in reality or anything like that, and nor do I want to. But you want to shift your body language away from them by 10 degrees. Meaning, I don't want to give you my back, turn my back to you. I don't want to completely turn away from you. But if you're letting somebody know, I'm just not playing this holiday season, I'm sure you can understand that. And you cannot wear that out, that phrase, I'm sure you can understand that. When you say that to somebody, it's a very clear message that you'd better understand that. But when you tell somebody, I'm just not playing tonight, and you shift your body language just 10% away from them, just a little bit, so that you're still acknowledging them with your body language, you're just not giving them all your focus. That is amazing. How when you do that just a little bit, they start to pick somebody else who will give them all of their attention, because that's really what they're looking for, is all of their attention. So don't give them all your attention. But again, you want to be kind with them. It's the holiday season, and I want to remember you're a narcissist. It is it's a disease. Unfortunately, we all have to deal with that. Okay, and another question that I got, narcissistic sibling, political fights. We covered political fights. Oh, and I cannot stress enough how important it is, the tactic of, well, that may be, but, and then the broken record. I mean, so many people stress out about so many things that they would not stress out about if they just used the, well, that may be, but I've made the decision and I'm sticking with it. Well, that may be, but I simply cannot do that. Well, that may be, but this holiday season for example, if somebody asks you, and I shouldn't say asks you, if somebody makes a physical comment, which happens a lot of us stress out about going to holiday dinners because we're going to be around family members that just think that our body is like public territory that they can comment on, and ask when we're going to impregnate it, when we are going, how much have we lost or gained? Because I think you know what I mean. If you're somebody who's on the thinner side and you hear people say to you, "Oh, you're so thin. Have you lost weight?" That is not a compliment either. And it's just so many of us get to the point where it's like, God, would you stop? My body is not the topic of our holidays discussion. Don't hesitate to remind people that you're taking a stand against body shaming, which is a very serious thing that causes the premature death of I don't know how many kids, but it causes depression. It causes, it puts kids at high risk of suicide, and there's no reason for it. There's no reason why we should buy into body shaming or any type of shame. I'm totally against guilt and shame and all of that. So if somebody does bring up your body in any way, whether it's when you're going to get pregnant, have you gained weight? Have you lost weight? Don't forget to give them a little holiday education, and tell them something like, Uncle Mark, I'm sure you're not aware of how serious a thing body shaming is, but I have made a vow that I'm not going to participate in it, and I'm sure you'll understand that. And then just leave it at that. And if they say something again about it, oh, well, whatever they say, again, Mark, again, I have to stop you. It's a very serious thing, body shaming, and I have made the vow not to participate in it. I'm sure you'll understand that. So let people know flat out. I think what really helps the most when it comes to these types of things is knowing the names of things. What that's called is body shaming. You must not be aware of that, Mark. So I'm going to tell you that. That's called body shaming, and I've decided not to do it. Or when you're talking about politics, I'm going to name what I have done, and it's called I put a moratorium on any discussion of politics at the table. So when you have the names of things, that makes a huge difference because you're not just grasping at straws, you're speaking in very concrete words, and it makes all the difference, especially when you can name things like, I'm just going to use the that may be but in the broken record. That's huge. Okay, let me read some comments, see if I got anything. Okay. I know they just love arguments for the attention. That's about it. And we let people, remember Sarah Palin? I have to say, I love the holiday, I should say Saturday Night Live version of her anyway. How she used to write stuff on her hand and in little notes and stuff. And I have to hand it to her. I mean, she might have had a couple too many eggnogs, but she stays on message. I mean, she stays on message. And it's because she would write it down and she would write it on her Christmas napkin if she had to and read it off of that. Do that. If you need to write yourself little notes and hold them as you talk to people, do that. Pretty soon you will not have to write yourself notes. By the way, that is something that I wanted to talk about. If you're part of, I hope that you're here, by the way, if you're in my private waitlist group, what we do and what I recommend everybody does is you have to train stuff. You have to drill it. You have to practice. You have to spar with people. Because remember, this holiday season, I'm going to be watching the the Macy's. Do they still have the Macy's Day Parade? I hope so. I always try to watch that. I always watch the Rockettes. Watching the Rockettes does not a Rockette make. I can't kick any higher in the air this holiday season than I could 20 years ago. And watching other people communicate effectively does not improve your communication skills a bit, not a bit. You have to practice. And it's just like any other language. You have to drill it and you have to spar with people. That's how you become one of those people that always has the words. You have to, and this is the truth that I think people don't get. You have to be able to spit things out before your brain comes and sabotages the whole thing, because that's what our brain does. Don't let your emotions, even worse, your emotions will betray you. Just remember, always. Okay. Yeah, it's so weird how often it comes up for people. What, politics? The pregnant thing, I know. What the heck? Okay, favorites. Why aren't you dating anybody? You don't want to be alone all your life, do you? People say that to you. You don't want to be alone all your life? Jeez. Okay, that would be one of those instances where you may want to say, I have made the decision this year to put a moratorium in any discussion of me or my love life or my personal life, if that's what you want to go for. I'm sure you'll understand that. My personal life is not an open topic of discussion for people's amusement during the holiday season. I'm sure you'll understand that. Like, sometimes we are way too shy. And I think when you start practicing saying things so that you can just say them without thinking about it, and you have to throw guilt in the holiday dumpster. People, if I need permission many times to say things, thankfully I have a mother who's very permissive. And so she gives me permission to say and do just about anything that I can think of. And she also holds me to task, makes me accountable for what I do. That said, I think you've had enough guilt, everybody. And I think you've had enough being nice. Being nice is very misinterpreted, I believe. Like, I want to be a compassionate, kind person. I do. That starts with me. That starts with being compassionate and kind and standing up for myself and protecting myself from being hurt by people who are out to hurt me. Because especially during the holiday season, you're a grown-up. Anybody who's here is a grown-up. You know when people are trying to hurt you. It's not like you are imagining it or need to discuss it with somebody. If you believe somebody's saying things to be hurtful, it's because they are. And you do not have to worry about being nice or polite. First, you have to worry about being loving. And that means you have to be loving to yourself. And that in turn can show other people what being loving looks like. And that can cause a chain reaction that changes generations to come. Being nice to somebody because you were taught to smile like a beauty pageant, contestant during the interview round does no one any good at all. So get the guilt and sack it in the holiday dumpster. Okay. I love the holiday season, you guys. I can't help it. I love it. So pardon me when I make my holiday references. I just can't help it. Okay, this is live now. It is live, and I got to get my glasses too. Tell me about this. Yes, I'm 58, not dated in about 5 years, and have no interest in dating again. Right, and that is your business. And so, when somebody asks you those types of questions, when they're just doing it to shame you for some reason, as if they feel like that's being shameful. Okay, this passive aggressive hurtful ones irk me. You have a big family of those. Really? You grew up with those people that tore you down, and now that you found my voice, I refuse to be serious with them. Good. I think when you say serious, I think so. I had my partner's mom ask what my partner and I were doing for Thanksgiving, even though she knows my financial situation is not great. And all I could say is, I'll be working on myself. That's a good one. That's a fantastic one. I'll be working on myself. I like that a lot. And I understand that. When you say it's because of your finances that you don't have a lot of things planned for this holiday season, a lot of people do not get it. I get it. Sometimes I don't have the money. I do not have the money for a tank of gas to drive to your house, okay? I just don't. And people do not understand that. And so they'll be like, oh, you don't have to bring a thing. Just bring like a casserole. And you're like, oh, God. To some people they don't know that, like, I don't have any money to put gas in my car. That said, remember, learning how to say no will change your holiday experience 100%. I made a decision now you have to hear me out on this. I made a decision, I think about 20 years ago with my family. Yeah, it was 20 years ago. It was 2000. 25 years ago, where I decided I had to tell everybody, first of all, the year before this, I had the biggest tree you could buy. I don't know where I got it, but I got it like some commercial sized tree because I was living in a loft right in front of I got this condo because it was specifically in front of this park that was all lit up during Christmas time with white lights, and it was gorgeous. And it had all of these big windows. It was a factory that was converted into a loft space. And so I got the biggest commercial tree I could find, put it in front of my window, and I had all these packages. It looked like a Macy's display, and everybody would come over and be like, oh my gosh, are these real? Because they couldn't believe that they'd never seen anything like that. And I was so proud of it. Then I filed bankruptcy that year, so people don't, I'm not good. I don't manage money as well as some people do. So speaking of the bankruptcy, after that, then I decided, you know what, I have lost my way when it came to the holidays, and I'm not giving any presents to anybody. So that was the decision that I made. And so I told everybody, I get so stressed out about making sure that I used to be a professional present wrapper. That's one of my hundreds of jobs. And I have to get the perfect present. Then I have to wrap it up with the perfect wrapping that probably costs more than the present. And then it's too much. I can't do it anymore. And so I told everybody that I was giving them the gift. My nephew thought I was very cheap. I said, I'm giving you the gift of never having to worry about me. I'm not worrying about you. If you give me something, it has to be handmade, and I will make handmade things for all of you, which meant I went out and got a bunch of pipe cleaners and made little snowmen with their name on it. You know what I'm talking about? So that said, I went for years and years and years and years and years without giving any gifts or receiving any gifts, and it was so liberating. But also you need to learn how to say no. And during the holiday season, remember, if you just have the 4-step, I like to use the 4-step process for saying no, which is sympathize, say no, say why, suggest alternatives. Oh, I would love to participate in your Secret Santa. However, unfortunately, this year that is not in my budget. However, I can absolutely participate by bringing something homemade if that's what you like. Would you like that? This year I have decided I'm not giving any more presents. It's for my own sanity. I'm sure you'll understand that. I can, however, exchange gifts that are handmade. So don't forget, sympathize, say no, say why, suggest alternatives, broken record, and throw being nice and guilt into the garbage because you've been nice enough. Enough. Okay, hold on one second. Okay, speaking of shy and the current loneliness, I know, what's the deal? Loneliness epidemic. What are some of the safer lines for shy people to use when meeting others? What to be mindful of? That is a fantastic question. When meeting others, shy people, I have to tell you, my best students are people who are cripplingly shy, so shy. Some of them are not shy. They're on this autism spectrum, which I know is very different, but that also makes them, if they can, the ones that tend to be in my groups, they know that they're on the autism spectrum, and it makes them very nervous. And because of that, they find it very difficult to meet people because they do not generally, my students don't really know how to do that. How do I walk up to people and make friends and not say the wrong thing? The way you do it is you memorize and you practice with other people. You put on cards, opening lines. That's it. And so opening lines are things. Here's the number one thing. If you can, who said that? Hold on a second. For your loved ones, you are the present. Oh, that's right. That's what I say. I'm your present. Okay, hold on. Speaking of okay, so this is cycler, something No way. A mountain unicycler? Do you ride a unicycle? I used to ride a unicycle. I'm sure I looked even cooler than I normally did, but I guess I used to tool around Fargo, North Dakota, because Fargo, North Dakota is very flat, so I'd ride my unicycle. I should have made it look like a candy cane during the holiday season. Oh, but I would freeze to death. Okay, so here's what you do. The number one thing that will make you a superstar when you meet people is just knowing how to walk up to somebody, extend your hand, and say, "Hi, I'm Dan. What's your name?" And now, that sounds simple, but you'll see a lot of people walk up to others and think that they're good at it, and they'll walk up and be like, "Hi, I'm Dan." And they will not say, "What's your name?" And so the other person will be like, "Hi, Dan." And then there'll be this awkward silence. So remember, it is 3 steps. Extend your hand, say hello, and your name. By the way, make sure that you say, "I'm so-and-so." And then the third step is, "What's your name?" And you keep shaking their hand. By the way, this is going to change everything for you if you practice this, because this is not what you're doing, or you would find it very easy. Okay. So you say, "Hi, I'm Dan. What's your name?" Then they give you their name and you say, "Joan" or "John" or "Jack," whatever it is, you repeat it. And because you do that for many reasons. One of the reasons you repeat it is because even though it might be very simple, and you'll be like, "Hi, I'm Dan. What's your name?" They say, "I'm Mary." You say, "Oh, Mary." And they'll be like, "No, Nary with an N." You'll be like, "Okay, nice to meet you, Nary." So there will be times when you will mishear something that you think is very clear, but it is not. Once you've done that and you've said, "Hi, hi, I'm Dan. What's your name?" "Mary." "Mary, is it? Nice to meet you, Mary." Now you've said their name twice. Once you've said somebody's name 2 times, that you are almost there. Then the third time that you say it, you ask them some type of question, just some type of, Are you having a good time, Mary? Or Nary? That's, now that you've done that 3 times, when you said, hi, I'm Dan, what's your name? Nary? Oh, nice to meet you, Nary. Tell me, Mary, where are you from? What brought you here tonight? You should have a stack of index cards. And on your index cards, you have different lead-in lines, different small talk, chit-chat stuff that you cannot go wrong with. What brings you here? Are you enjoying yourself? Where are you? Tell me. Oh, by the way, you should always begin, I did not do this correctly. You should always begin with, tell me about. Because if you just say to somebody, so where are you from? So are you having a good time? People will give you one-word answers many times if they're not savvy communicators themselves. But if you have the greeting down, hi, I'm Dan, what's your name? Mary? Well, nice to meet you, Mary. Tell me, what brings you here tonight? And you ask the right open-ended questions. Tell me about where you're from. Tell me more about what you do. Tell me about, and you begin everything with tell me about. By the time you've said 3 things, that is like a whole conversation that it will just come so effortless. And the real trick is, if you're the one who can walk up to people and say, hi, I'm so-and-so, what's your name? People will tell you later on how much that impressed them, because when you look around, nobody does that at all. And if you choose the people, I like to do this. I like to choose the people who are kind of looking uncomfortable. They're not talking to anybody. They look like somebody dragged them there, and they're feeling like they wish there was the hellmouth that they could just jump into and it would, eat them whole. But there's not. Go to them and be like, hi, I'm Dan, what's your name? So what brought you here tonight? And ask them about who they are and where they're from and all of that stuff. And because you will be the only one who will do that, the only one in any event, they'll tell you later on how much that meant to them, that you would bring them in and acknowledge them and all of that. And you just can't imagine what a difference that will make. Then that will quickly build your confidence when you recognize, my God, I'm the only one who's welcoming people in. You know what I mean? Like, we have lost that common grace. We've lost that as a society. People don't come up to one another and welcome them into the space that they find themselves in. So do that. Huge difference. It will be so easy, and you will be so confident very quickly. And there's nothing that you can go wrong with saying things like that. Oh yes, open-ended questions. And remember, the biggest difference between open-ended questions and the other types are open-ended questions. You will always know that you're asking one if you begin them with, tell me about, how do you feel about, and what do you think about, right? That's very different from, oh, where are you from? What do you do? Did you blah, blah, blah? Because then people will be like, no, yes, Fargo, and then you'll be like, God, it's so difficult getting you to talk. It's not when you say, tell me about where you're from. Watch. When you do that, people will be like, well, and the first word tends to be well, because they'll be thinking to themselves, geez, no one's ever asked me to tell them about how I feel about anything, or tell me about where I'm from. And they will experience a Christmas miracle. Christmas miracle. Hold on. I'm so awkward. I was going to say, Nana Breeze, you said, I'm so awkward, it tends to break the ice. That's right, it does. Embrace your awkwardness. I don't know how old you are. It will be the thing that people will most love about you, because when you are authentic and put it out there and are like, I'm just going to let everybody, you don't have to say it, they'll know it. When you just put out your awkwardness and say what you're thinking and make mistakes, that in turn gives other people permission to do the same. And like, you being yourself makes other people feel like it's okay to be themselves. And almost nobody feels like it's okay to be themselves. And so people who give us that permission and make it a safe place, like, whoever you are, you're safe here. I will not judge you or pick it apart. It's okay. That is such a gift that I'm sure you give people all the time. And if you don't, do. And I'm sure we learn, it is my awkwardness that is my biggest gift, because it lets other people know, hey man, we're okay. Okay, so I'll find questions about our work. Yes, I have to tell you all, I'm from Fargo, North Dakota. Right now I'm sitting in Mexico. I come to Mexico a lot, spend most of my time here now. The reason I spend most of my time here is because people are so loving and so gracious. And it's true. If I had to get rid of the habit which is very difficult, of asking people when I first meet them, so what do you do? Because people here, if you ask them, what do you do? They'll be like, what do you mean? What do I do? I'm like, well, what do you do for work? They'll be like, why are you asking me that? They will, because they're like, what are you at? How rude, they think. Because for them, that's like, why would you ask me something so unimportant? Why don't you ask me about my family or where I'm from? Why would you ask me how much? Basically, here's what I never really got. When we do that in our culture and we say, so tell me about what you do. Part of it is just making small talk. Part of it is we're sizing people up, and we're putting the pegs in the board. You know what I mean? And a lot of people here, they don't really let you do that as much. And the conversations tend to be so much more meaningful. I just can't even believe it. So if you are not out of the habit of asking people at the beginning of when you meet them, what do they do for a living? Try getting out of the habit and watch how your conversations change. Because, have you guys ever had this happen? You're like on this, I remember this, I was on the subway. And so this guy starts telling me in roundabout ways, he made sure to slip it in, like between, the 81st Street and 92nd Street, what kind of car he drove, where he worked, all these things. And I'm like, oh, it was the first time I remember realizing, oh, you're putting out your resume. Oh, okay. Oh, well, it's flattering, but no, thank you. So when we ask people questions about things that could be considered status, it can make people feel uncomfortable and makes our conversations much more shallow. 58. Also, so you've got, so the Nana Breeze, you're 58. Have you embraced your awkwardness and have you recognized other people finding it the most endearing part of you? I'm wondering. Okay, I can laugh at myself now. Nana Breeze, oh, here we go. Now the shame. Oh, Nana, I have to tell you, isn't it true? I'm 52 now. With every year, I don't know. I think if we could let things go as 20-year-olds, we'd be too dangerous. We would rule the world, especially men. We'd burn it all down. So these things about being comfortable with ourselves and not really caring and about, stupid things, that tends to come more and more with every year. Wouldn't you agree? And if we had it all at the beginning, it ought to be too much. Status, right? Okay. The what you do for a living question has never felt comfortable or appropriate for me to ask ever. That's probably because you're more considerate than some people. Hello. How can I deal with a coworker who occasionally tries to ruin my reputation doing little humiliation rituals, like telling me what I'm doing wrong in, say, paperwork in front of colleagues? Aha. Okay. That's a good one. When people are specifically telling you that, for example, what you are doing wrong, there's different things for every situation. For that situation, I like to say to people, let's say that my boss is Mark, and she's saying, you're not doing the paperwork correctly. I would say, this is my personal choice, Mary, I answer to Mark. He's the one who decides whether or not I'm doing this correctly. And so I'm sure you'll understand, I only take direction and criticism from him as well. You understand, don't you? Let her know and you will, by the way, be letting her know with you do understand, don't you? You're not the one who's filling up my reports. You're not the one who's going to decide if I'm doing it right. If I did it the way you're saying, and then I get pushback from Mark, people will be able to figure that all out if you were to say, you do understand he's the one I answer to, therefore he's the only one I can take instruction or criticism from. You understand, right? I like to say that because that really puts people on alert that you're not taking their crap, But it depends on what are the types of things, because there was another one that went through my mind when somebody likes to bring up the past. I like how you said these little humiliation routines or rituals. That's exactly what it is. Let me say this. When people engage in passive aggressive communication like that, humiliation rituals, as I mentioned at the beginning, when people are treating you with lovelessness on purpose. You know that. You don't need to wonder. So feel free to call it out, because passive aggressive communicators, they thrive in the obscured fog, They thrive in situations where they can say, well, I was just trying to help. I was just this, that, and the other. I was just joking. So they want to And they usually can hide behind passive aggressive communication because they can put the veil up of, I was just trying to help. I was just joking. I was just blah, blah, blah. I thought you'd want to know type of comments, fuck that. Don't let them get away with that. Instead, be very upfront with her. If you want it to really end, feel free to say something very straightforward, like, when you say XYZ, I believe what you're trying to say is blah, blah, blah. Is that what you're trying to say? Like when you say that I might want to change the way that I dress here, I believe what you're trying to say is that I dress like a hillbilly, or that, for example, or I believe what you're really trying to say is that you are somehow above me, or I believe what you're trying to do is humiliate me in front of my peers. Is that what you're trying to do? Call it out and watch. He'll be like, well, no, I didn't mean it that way. I was just, well, what did you mean when you said that? What are you trying to do? And then hold people accountable when you are clear and upfront without being passive aggressive yourself. You know what I mean? That's the big trick. When you're trying to counter passive aggressive behavior, insulting behavior, it's very tempting to try and engage in it, but you cannot cast out darkness with more darkness. That does not work. It's sometimes very tempting, but you can only cast out darkness with light. And so if you are very clear and direct and shine light on what they are doing, when you say this, it appears like you are doing that. Is that what you're trying to do? And you can even tell people, well, if that is what you're trying to do, you can just be upfront with it. I can take it. And they tend to be like, God, whatever, stop making me be upfront with my communication. Okay. Oh, we've only got a few minutes left. Okay. How about tackling? I appreciate your respect on this. I knew I could count on your support. Thanks for your understanding. Tacking on this. Yes. I was going to say, gosh, what? Yes. I love, depending on the situation, it's not always appropriate to say thanks for your support on this when you know that people really aren't supporting it. Thanks for your understanding. Tends to work better in those types of situations. But yeah, I love things like, thank you for supporting me on this. After I ask them, can I count on your support? And when people say yes, then you can say, thank you for supporting me on this. It really makes a big difference. By the way, I have to tell you, this is one of my favorite strategies. The surrender. Has anybody seen The Wicked for Good? If you have, let me know, because I'm really looking forward to it. So when I think about the surrender, many times we work with people who just seem to never give in. Like we're always trying to get them to, to go with us or our thoughts, but they don't. And they're trying to get us to go with them. And sometimes we don't. Maybe we do. But when you can surrender to people and say to them specifically, like these components, John, it's difficult for me to see how that's going to work, or it's difficult for me to see how that's the right option. However, I trust your judgment and you have my support. When you can tell somebody, I'm not seeing it the way you do. That said, I'm going to trust you because I might not trust your solution. I do trust your judgment. When you can convey that and let people know, I trust your judgment and therefore I'm going to support you on this. It is amazing how they will then support us in the future when we need it. So when you can, surrender to people when it's not, the end of the world, and you can let them know, I, although do not agree with you, will support you because I trust you. And that makes a big difference. It helps a lot. Okay. I'm glad my question helped more. Of course it did. How does one overcome awkwardness you described if the root is fear of devastating the offender because there's no shyness here? I'm not sure I understand. When you say that you're afraid of devastating the offender, sometimes they need to be devastated. And I don't mean that I really do not ever teach people. I've had people ask me, how can they be loveless? And I don't even try to teach. I don't even know if I'm good at that. But when I say that you shouldn't worry about that because maybe they need to be devastated, what I mean by that is, it is none of your business the way they respond when you are communicating in an upfront, clear, honest way that honors you and your needs. Doesn't matter how they take that. Now, of course, I say that if it were my mother, it matters. If it were my grandmother, okay, you got me. I don't know how I might balance that. That said, I've never once had a situation where anybody in that category, my mother, my father, my grandmother, would ever be in that situation where I would have to worry about expressing truth to them because it might, devastate them. Truth would only bring us closer. Truth should only bring you closer to somebody because it would make your relationship more real. And the only way you can ever strengthen any relationship is with truth. And even if it means you're going to have to work through a difficult situation or a difficult conversation, it is by doing that you strengthen relationships. You know what I mean? You don't have a strong relationship with people that you've never had to overcome anything with in that, I don't know how to say that, in that relationship. So when I say it is none of your business how people process when you honor yourself and are true to yourself and say, because I'm assuming what you're talking about is when you need to say to somebody, hey, I don't play that way. That don't body shame me. Don't, I won't participate in that with you. I won't participate in shaming you or me or anyone else here. I will not join with you in your lovelessness. And if that is somehow going to break you, I didn't break you. Maybe I don't know what did. I don't worry about you. I have to worry about me first. And I'm going to love me. And that's the best I can do for you. That's the best that I can do. So don't worry so much if you are confident. Like, I'm a huge believer in the personal compass. Where's mine? It's right there. Oh, it fell down. The personal compass. If you know who you are, why you're here, and what you want, there are 3 sentences. I am, I'm here to, and I want. Most people could not end any one of those sentences, much less all 3. If you have taken the time to decide before this moment in time comes, who you are, why you're here, and what you want. Like this person that you're worried about hurting, let's put them aside for a moment. And let's say that you are committed to being a loving person. You are here to shine light in the darkness, and you want financial and personal independence. That's what you want. That's not asking for much, but you know who you are, why you're here, and what you want. And you practice that and you keep it visible and you remind yourself of it. When this person now shows up and tests you and wants to, really put you to put that to the test, before you speak to them, if you remember, wait a minute, I'm a loving person, I'm a patient person, I'm a compassionate person, whatever it may be, I'm here to enjoy myself, which is mine, and I want financial independence. Is what I'm saying in line with that? If it is, and you then say it in that sliver in time, most people don't have a way to filter what it is that they're going to say in the moment. They go with their gut. They go with their emotion. Your gut and your emotion will betray you in those moments. So instead of doing that, if you have a filter like your personal compass and you run it through there before you speak it, you will never have regrets, ever, because you have to do what you have to do to protect you and be loving to you, because or else you cannot be loving to anybody else. And with that, I have to close with these glasses. Hit the like button. Thank you very much, Babs. Thank you, Babs. Yes, everybody, please hit the like button and share this and all of that. If I would appreciate that. Also, don't forget, I have the waitlist group until November 30th is free. If you join that, you get all sorts of free tips, and we're going to be doing all sorts of things that you will benefit from if you like improving your communication skills like this, and there is no cost to it. So make sure to join that. I should have the link in the description. And if anybody has another question for our next live session, I'm going to try to do these live sessions pretty frequently. Like next week, I'm going to do one. If you have a question that you'd like me to address at the beginning, please write it in the comments so that I can address it the next time before we begin. And Megs and Buddy are here on the ground. Let's see. No, they are conked out. There's no way I'm going to be able to levitate them high enough for the camera. So anyway, I'm so grateful that everybody would care enough about communication and being kind and compassionate and all of that to join me here. So thank you all very much. I really appreciate any type of support I have ever gotten from you. I appreciate it. If you have not yet joined this channel, make sure to join and subscribe. And I don't mean to cut anybody off, but thank you so much. Thank you. Waitlist group. Yes, waitlist. And Thank you, Bright Page. Thank you for everybody. And I hope to see you very soon. Have a happy holiday season. I will talk to you before Thanksgiving once more, okay? Bye, guys. I'm very grateful for you.